So this one shocked me with the number of requests I've gotten for this one, mainly because I see the comment all the time. This particular comment here is regurgitated on, oh, we're tired of seeing stuff like this. We don't want more Aventus clones, but yet I get requests all the time to cover Aventus clones. So it's pretty simple. If you don't want to see the videos, just don't watch them, or you can and just, you know, give me that sweet YouTube engagement, because that always helps. But if you're not interested, you know, tomorrow's going to be another video on something different. People know the drill by now. But this one, it did shock me. I've had this one commented a lot. It's been brought up in a few viewer-led videos, and again, I've gotten a lot of requests to cover this one standalone, and I finally ended up getting it. I'm really accumulating Aventus clones by the truckload here. This latest one, I mean, not latest, like it's not new, but you know, it's new to the channel, me talking about it, is going to be Afnan Supremacy, Not Only Intense. So no, it's an extrait de parfum. We're going full on concentration here, beefy stuff, and we're going to dive into this one today. How it smells, how it performs, when you can wear it, and how similar it is to the almighty Creed Aventus. For what it's worth, this is a 2021 release, so not brand new like this year, but I guess it only did come out about a year ago, so relatively new to the scene. I believe Afnan has another Aventus clone. Is it Supremacy? Let me look. I know they've got Silver Mountain Water. Let's see. It's not going to show up. I don't know. You guys could tell me. I think they do. But this one gets compared to Aventus, but also more specifically, it gets compared to Nishane Hacivat. Sorry, I'm off camera trying to set this down. So we'll kind of cover that as well. How similar is it to Aventus? How similar to Hacivat? All of that stuff. So when you first spray this one on, immediately you do get that Aventus DNA, but also that Hacivat DNA. It's fruitiness to the max off the opening, and I love it. It's blackcurrant, it's bergamot, it's this juicy pineapple smell. It opens up with a bang. You get a good amount of apple as well, and that note is also heavily used in Aventus. Immediately following that is this kind of richness and depth coming in, a lot of it being from the oak moss. It's kind of green, earthy, a little bit sweet, very woody, very masculine, and very forthcoming. And as it starts to move into that mid, into the dry down, you start to really get the Hacivat similarities. Now, because they're all going to be roped up together here, you can also kind of compare it to Aventus as well, but in this instance here, it's going to be more Hacivat leaning, especially as it starts to settle down. That opening, very fruits heavy, like a super fruity batch of Aventus. The depth isn't coming through yet, but as it starts to settle down, it definitely goes more in the Hacivat direction. It's like a nice hybrid. With Hacivat, right off the initial spray, you get that big burst of pineapple, but the oak moss comes through a lot quicker. It's just sweeter and richer right off the rip. That's not how this one is, though. So this one kind of eases into it, but as you get into that dry down, that oak moss, pineapple, ambergris concoction really starts to ramp up. You get into something that's richer and stronger and just has more depth, more punch than Aventus. Aventus is one of those kind of oddball fragrances because for me it's a summer scent. A lot of people view it kind of more as almost a cooler weather scent in some instances because of, you know, the richness that they maybe perceive Aventus to have, because it's got a lot of woods going on, but also a lot of fruits. And Aventus is kind of lighter in general compared to something like Hacivat. I've been wearing Aventus for years. I always prefer it in the summer. I think it comes to life in the heat. I think it smells better in the heat, but to that note, it could also be worn all year round. I will wear it in the wintertime as well. It's an all year rounder, but I prefer Aventus in the summertime. When you get into something like Hacivat or Not Only Intense here, you start getting into something where in the summer it may start to almost get a little bit too sweet, at least in the outdoors. I mean, as it sits, as it further dries down, it almost gets to be like a dead ringer of Hacivat, to the point where you could probably tell the difference blindfolded side by side. Most people probably could, at least people who have a lot of experience with Hacivat and just smelling fragrances in general. But I mean, it's shockingly close. Like even now as I'm smelling it here, and it hasn't even been drying down for that long in this wearing, I mean, it's remarkable. It gets smoky, it gets very woody, a little bit earthy, but you're still getting a lot of those fruits and that sweetness. It's impressive stuff. It's also important to note that Hacivat is also an extrait de parfum, so we're taking a look at 2 heavily concentrated fragrances, and this one definitely behaves as such as well. It just has that kind of almost heavy smell to it. Like, I don't know, you could, after you've smelled so many things and so many different concentrations, you can usually tell when a true extrait is a true extrait, and you can tell when an EDT is an EDT, right? I mean, it just gets to this, having this heaviness and this richness and this creaminess and almost a stickiness about it, where it's just so heavily concentrated. And I personally like extraits. You know, parfum concentrations are kind of my favorite. I like how they wear on my skin. I like that they usually sit closer to the skin but leave a super strong heavy scent trail. It's kind of my preference, and this one here really gets that down to a T. We will take a look at the full note breakdown here. We've got blackcurrant, bergamot, and apple up top, oak moss, patchouli, and lavender in the mid, ambergris, saffron, and musk in the base. So I've already covered the top. You get all of those top notes there right off the rip. Awesome opening, really wakes you up, really gets your attention, smells amazing, has a lot of impact. You get a lot of that oak moss like I've already talked about, and even some of the patchouli, also giving off this earthiness and a little bit of a green kind of tinge in the mid. And then for the dry down, we've got ambergris, saffron, and musk. I get a ton of the ambergris. I get a decent amount of musk as well. It's a relatively light musk that's maybe offering a little bit of balance, although it can't do too much against those heavier notes. As for the saffron, I really don't pick up on it. So, you know, this is a fragrance here where, you know, it could still be labeled as an Aventus clone for sure, because it still does smell similar to it. I know some people say Hacivat smells nothing like Aventus. I don't think that's the case. I mean, they're still quite a bit different in terms of the richness, but still you could pick up on Aventus nuances for sure. So could be Aventus clone. I think more appropriately labeled as a Hacivat clone, though. I really do. Just because it could be misleading. If someone wants a super fruity, bright, summery Aventus smell, this may not be what you're looking for, given all of the richness and the sweetness and the depth that it has. So do be careful with this one. If you're going to wear it in the summertime, that's perfectly fine. Might I suggest indoor usage? You know, I've worn Hacivat out in the summer before, and there was a point where I had to scrub it off. It was just too strong for me. To each their own. I'm all about wearing kind of sweeter fragrances in the summer. You guys know this. But sometimes, for my preference, it can be a bit too much as well. So that's just something to think about here. Indoors, like right now as I'm wearing this inside, it's, of course, very pleasant. You know, 70 degrees in here or whatever. Smells great, right? That'll be the perfect time to wear it in temperatures like that. Longevity on this one is absolutely sick. I mean, it's crazy. It's been 10 plus hours on my skin consistently. Again, we're talking true parfum concentration. I mean, it is heavy, dense stuff. It will not go away, 10 plus, which is really impressive for a clone here, especially in this price point. It's not cheap, really, but it's also not crazy expensive. It's still way cheaper than Hacivat or Aventus. But I mean, performance really impressed me. And even projection, you know, we're talking the highest concentrated version you can get here, and it still pushes out. To me, it does a better job at leaving a trail, as I've talked about before, but also it will project too. So it's kind of checking both of those boxes there. It's going to leave its trail in the room as you walk out. Also, if you're just standing still, it's going to push out and reach people several feet away as well. So really a nice compromise there. Compliments is also going to be amazing. Again, you know, maybe watch your sprays a little bit, especially in warmer conditions, because you will get to the point where you can be obnoxious with this one. So something to think about. But I mean, if you're applying it right, you're wearing it correctly, you're taking care of yourself and all the basic stuff, as I've talked about a million times on the channel, you'll get some positive feedback. There's a lot that goes into compliments. That should go without saying. I shouldn't have to make a full video on that, talking about you know, how compliments are to be achieved, right? Most of you guys understand it without the need of me making a video ranting about it for 20 minutes or whatever. But you guys understand, you know, if you're doing it right, wearing it properly, not going too hard, this will really get you some compliments. It's that type of DNA here, Hacivat Aventus DNA, that just works like crazy when it's done right. So that's going to do it for me. That is Supremacy, not only intense, impressive, really is. I see the hype. I'm glad you guys were asking for this one because it's impressive, and I'm glad to have it in my collection. If I'm in the mood for something like this DNA and I don't want to use Hacivat or Aventus, you know, this is kind of a nice middle ground where I can get into it and wear it at a cheaper price. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.